when you shot that coyote today, offhand at 200 yards, because we had no, like that coyote snuck in on us. We're getting ready to put our guns and our packs back in the Jeep, and I'm like, coyote. And I don't have a shot at it. I actually threw myself up on the bog pod, but I didn't have a shot at it. And luckily, you're whatever 9 foot or whatever, so you can see over all the junipers.
I was shooting right over the top of you.
Yeah, you're shooting over all the junipers. And I look over and you're offhand, and I'm like, you want my tripod? And you're like, no, I got it. And I mean, offhand at 200 yards, and I hope you don't take any offense to it, but you're shooting a puppy. It wasn't a big
little one.
Yeah, it wasn't a big target, right?
Yeah.
You're shooting a 6-month-old dog.
Yeah, well, we thought it was a fox.
Yeah,
looking at it,
it was so small that I when I first looked at it in the scope, I thought it could have been a fox. Yeah. To your credit, you pulled the trigger, and I heard that thwap, and I was like, and I didn't even see it. I never seen the coyote when you took the shot, but when I heard the meat report, I was like, you killed him. Yeah. And I knew you did. I knew you killed it.
Did you see the surprise on my face? Can you believe I hit that thing?
Yeah. And you looked at me like, did that just happen? And then,
I was more surprised than anybody.
Right. But again, I just got done telling this story about an elk and how awesome it was, and if you're a hunter, it probably makes the hair on your neck stand up a little bit when I tell that story. But if you're a coyote hunter, the hair's standing up on your neck right now too, because that's an awesome story that you just spent 30 minutes calling, and a coyote snuck in behind you. And I think it was the same coyote that popped its head up earlier. I think it was just trying to get downwind of us. Yeah. What an amazing story, that, it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. Right. We didn't look like professionals, we weren't out there. My calling didn't bring that coyote in, but what an amazing story, and that's something I'm going to remember forever. So that's one of those aspects about hunting that I think is really important. Is I don't know that if you're a pro baseball player or football player, if you remember every game, every touchdown, every home run, but I feel like as a hunter, you remember every animal you harvest. Like at this point, like there's not a single story that escapes me. There's not a hunt that I can't tell you turn by turn.
When we take photos of a lot of our and man, when I look at a photo, I know I can remember how it all went down. How that dog came in or how it was shot. Because we've hunted a lot together, and to see some like the one that's at the taxidermist right now, right off to my left, my dog to shoot, but my blind ass didn't see it.
Well, in your defense, you had a giant pine tree in front of you. But what's funny is the fact that you weren't able to shoot that dog allowed me to get my first pine tree coyote. Like I'd never killed a coyote in the pine trees before. Always killed them in the desert. So if anything, I thank you.
Yeah. Hey, you're welcome. I knew it was going to be.
I appreciate you putting yourself right in front of that tree where you couldn't see. And what's funny is that coyote came in on a string, right in line with that giant tree that was right in front of you, or off to your left a little bit. If it had been 20 feet, not yards, if it had been 20 feet to the right, you'd have killed that coyote. You'd have seen him coming in. I'd have saw it. But I'm really glad you didn't. I'm really glad you didn't, and he was able to get into my shooting
we got some
lane.
redemption the next weekend.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, yeah, and I mean, how incredible is that? Like, we were so excited to kill that coyote. I got my first, up northern pine tree coyote, and then turn around the very next weekend, we're up there hunting, and I mean, what did we
called in two, like, that two came
in like 10 seconds. Like I kicked the call on, and they came in. The pair came in on a string, and you were able to dump one. It was definitely an incredible hunt. But,
that was.
But
awesome.
it's hunts like that. Like I don't. There's not a single coyote that I've killed that I can't tell you the story right now. Yeah. Like I can tell you exactly. I mean, I can almost probably tell you what call they came in on. Yeah. What if I was using pup distress or coyote fight or long howl.
I can almost tell you the stories about all the ones I've missed.
Well, unfortunately I can do that too.
There's been a few.
Unfortunately I can do that
too. Well, how close was the one that we called it?
Right. That's true.
I think we determined that my gun might not have been sighted in properly.
Yeah.
I was using the AR at that point.
Yeah. Well, again, that's that learning curve, right? Yeah. Like once you get it, but how nice is it once you get it figured out, right? When you walk to a stand, all the things that you do to increase your chances of being successful are mistakes that you made prior to that stand. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I was talking about this on the last podcast, how when I first started coyote hunting, I didn't check for wind.
Right.
I check for wind for deer and elk, but I didn't check for coyotes. And here's the thing: how stupid is that, right?
Probably even more important with a coyote,
stupid.
right?
It's a dog.
It's a
right?
predator. Man.
Yeah, it's a dog.
He's checking wind.
Right. Like they use those dogs to like sniff out drugs and all
Right.
kinds of stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, they got dogs that can sniff cancer, and here I am not checking wind. But one hell of a learning experience, you know?
Yep.
And I actually remember taking you out on one of your first hunts, and like the third stand, you were like, we got back in the truck, and you were like, why do you keep kicking the dirt every time we get out? And I was like, oh, I'm kicking up the dust to see which way the wind's blowing.
Well, you know, because prior to that, I think even on our deer hunt, you know, you use your little and I'm like, he kicks the dirt a lot.
You're like, why is he kicking the dirt? Is he pissed about something? You know, but that's funny, right? Like without context, like you're like, why is he kicking the dirt? That doesn't like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
You know.
So guess what I do every time I get
Kick the dirt.
I kick the dirt.
No, I know. I watch you like every time we get out. I'm like, I don't even kick the dirt when I hunt with you. I'm like, which way's the wind going? Hey, there's something that I ran across on Facebook last week, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it because you're a new hunter, right? And I feel like you probably haven't been like corrupted with a bunch of people's opinions. So a guy posted on Facebook. He took a picture of a game cam. Much like this one. So he took a picture of a game cam on a tree. And what he posted was, he said, look at this. Someone cheating with a camera on my water hole.
On his water hole?
His water hole. Public land.
Oh, okay. So it's his water public land water hole.
And of course, there was a bunch of comments that on both sides of like, oh yeah, I rip those things off the trees and throw them in the pond or stomp on them and throw them in the trash and then there's guys going like, what are you talking about? Like, it's not your water hole, it's public land, right?
Yeah.
And I read through all the comments, right, and there was probably just as many guys criticizing him for being upset about it as were supportive of him. Like, yeah, that's BS. They shouldn't, cameras are cheating. And all this stuff. Like, really, before like I share like any of my thoughts on it, like, what are your thoughts on using game cams?
Well, that's just like, you're always going to have two different types, right? You're always going to have the guy who believes in sitting in a blind or sitting in a tree stand, and you're going to have the guy who wants to hike in glass. Right. So you're going to have different types of hunters. It's like you have a different type of hunter with game cams. I personally like the game cam. I mean, I have them myself. You know, we took them out prior to our deer hunt last year, and we set them up, behind our camp.
Yep.
We saw a lot of elk. We weren't hunting elk.
Nope.
I think we saw a coyote in there or something, and we did see a couple of bucks. We didn't hunt there. I think the benefit of a game cam, well, the whole purpose of it is to see what the traffic's like, right? I've got a limited amount of time. When you work full time, like most of us do, I can't go up there for a week before my hunt.
That's right.
And really, put in the footwork. So this allows us, the one time that we get drawn, or every couple years, and if you're lucky, you get it sooner. But to be more productive, and to know where I'm going to hunt. Because when I go to hunt, I want to know what my plan is. I'm not going out there to say, well, I got 6 days this year, or 10, whatever the hunt I draw. Okay, now let's see, where should we go?
Right.
No. I've got to, and I can't come up the week before all the time. There's times that you can, there's times that you can't.
Right.
The benefit of a game cam is set that sucker out there.
Yep.
And it kind of does it's not telling you where they're bedding down. It's not telling you anything except for, hey, there's deer in the area.
Yeah, I'd even say it doesn't even tell you if that deer is going to show up again.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't.
All it tells you is that there are deer here. Or there's nothing but a bunch of does here. Or there's nothing here. Man, this thing's been out here for 2 weeks, and all I've seen is birds fly by, So I don't think that it's cheating. I think that it's just like anything else. It's another tool that we're allowed to use. I mean, gosh, if you want to get rid of technology, put your rangefinder away.
Or Onyx Maps.
Yeah, get rid of everything. Yeah. You want to go out there, put your gun away. Go out there with your bow and arrow. I mean, we all hunt differently.
Where's the line?
We all hunt differently, and you're going to have, I don't know what the divide is. It sounds like it's pretty equal right now. There's guys who like them. There's guys who don't. If you don't like them, leave that guy's stuff alone. Okay? Nobody's asking you. He's not out there sabotaging your stuff. Leave his stuff alone.
Right. So what ended up happening was I read through all these comments, and like I said, there was a lot of them. And there was guys telling you like how to jimmy into the lock boxes, and telling you that's why I carry bolt cutters so I can cut those off and destroy them and all this stuff. And pull your sidearm out and shoot it. Wait till the guy gets back and sees that you shot his camera or whatever. Like, so there were some really vindictive things going on. And actually, Brad, of course, Brad's got a little bit of a smart ass streak in him.
No.
Yeah.
Brad?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So he posts on that. He posts on it. He says, yeah, I couldn't believe it. Onyx actually posted my favorite water hole too and put it on there for everybody to see on their maps. I was so pissed. I got a giggle out of it, But what I posted was, and I'm not going to be able to remember what I put verbatim, but what I posted was I said, as hunters, we're a very small group, and we get smaller every year. And I said, but yet we still find bullshit things like this to separate us even further. And I said,
that's a really good point. I was thinking that.
And I said, I was like, how about if you like game cams, use them. If you don't like game cams, don't use them. Mm-hmm. But quit acting like a bunch of cheerleaders, And that's what I put on the post. Mm-hmm. And what I found was really interesting was there wasn't a single post after I posted that.
Shut them up.
It was crickets. And believe me, I hope it doesn't come across like I'm trying to pat myself on the back I shut him up. But what I'm trying to say is I wonder if maybe everyone was like, oh, damn it, he's right. Yep. Like, why are we arguing over game cams? Yeah. I will tell you right now, there's no way you can prove that this is going to help me kill a deer or an elk. There's no way.
It's not going to get you a kill. No. It's not going to guarantee anything. No. You got to put in the time. Yeah, you got to put in the
If I want to sleep in till 10 a.m. every morning, this game cam's not going to help me kill a deer. Right. It amazes me that the passion that hunters have for hunting, but yet they can still find ways to segregate themselves from other hunters. Yeah. And I think I was telling you this before is, I know hunters that, they feel like, well, I've been hunting this one area in Unit 10 for 20 years, so it's my area. Mm-hmm. And I've had guys tell me how they carry locks with them and lock gates.
Wow.
And I just in the same, I hear guys that carry bolt cutters to cut locks off of gates. And I'm like, man, how terrible is that we all can't respect what we're doing to the point. Like, you'll never talk to a hunter that doesn't tell you how much he loves it.
Right.
But some of those hunters have no problem trying to steal that away from somebody else. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it saddens me, to be honest with you. It really saddens me because I feel very proud when I tell people I'm a hunter. I work in the education field. There's not a lot of hunters in the education field. Mm-hmm. And matter of fact, there's a lot of negative blowback sometimes when people say, but when people ask me, I was on a call the other day, a planning call, and they said, what are you looking forward to the most after this project's completed? I said, my wife has a Unit 6A bull tag, and I can't wait to go help her harvest her first bull elk.
Yeah.
And it was like silence on the other line. Yeah. Because I know that a lot of them probably strongly disagree with hunting. Mm-hmm. But I'm so proud to be a hunter that I'm okay. Like, it's okay with me that I'm willing to create a little bit of awkwardness to share my passion for what I do. We find these little things to separate us.
I agree. That is one. It is nice to be a part of the club. It's nice to be a part of the hunting group. When I moved to Arizona in '95, I worked with a guy, Gary Mahaffey, and he's a hunter, a Steve Rinelli hunter. The guy hunts nonstop, and he's good at it. Loves to go elk, deer, bear, you name it. He's got everything. And I never really understood it. He'd show me, this was the elk I got this year. I'm like, man, that's nice. That was the extent of it with me.
Right.
And then when I started getting into hunting after meeting you, and I loved it so much, I made you my brother.
I appreciate it.
Now I look forward to seeing Gary just so I could talk to him about it, because now I have something to talk to Gary about rather than, the business that we're in. now I could talk to him about something that really is truly his passion. He's one of those guys like you. He's raised hunting since he's a kid. So yeah, so to be a part of that group now is kind of like, man, now I can talk to all those guys about this passion because I have it.
And now you
get
it.
And man, now I get it, you know, and now I have that passion. And I probably would have had it back then if I'd have just tried it. And I just didn't. Just never did. And yes, you know, then you got guys who try to separate it. Well, hey, we all have the same passion, man.
Right.
We're all out here. Because if you were to meet those guys, not knowing that he's the guy who hates game cams, and that's the guy who uses game cams, you never ever talked about it, and you're sitting in a bar talking about hunting, you'd be best friends.
Yep.
You could talk all day long about that.
I don't know. I can't tell you how many times like I've been on my way to a hunt or something like that, or coming back from a hunt, and you know, antlers were sticking out, or something was identifiable that I was hunting. Maybe I was wearing camo, and someone like, "Hey, what are you hunting?" And I sparked up a conversation with someone at a gas station, and ended up talking for way longer than I anticipated because of that passion keeps coming out, you know. And he's, you know, they're passionate about it, and I'm passionate about it. And I will tell you, like, in my own personal opinion, I've ran into a lot more good people that are hunters than I have bad people that are hunters. And I know that there's bad peoples in every group, but I feel like the hunting group is something I'm very proud to be a part of. You know, you talked about something, and I don't mean to change the subject, but I had a little bit of a realization, as you said. You know, we met and started hunting together, and you enjoyed it so much you made me your brother. For someone that only started hunting a year and a half ago, I just realized you were coyote hunting the day after you got married. Like, I just realized, like, I was like, holy crap, like, me and him went coyote hunting the day after he got married. Like, that's where you have come in such a short time that, first of all, you chose to get married out in the woods, which I thought was amazing, by the way. You married my sister-in-law.
You married us, which was awesome. Thank you.
You ended up marrying, you know, my wife's sister, and you asked me to officiate the wedding, which, thank you, I appreciate it. It was an honor to be a part of that. But I don't know that it sunk in when we were on that first stand the next morning that was your honeymoon. And we were out coyote hunting. Like, you got married the day before, and we were out coyote hunting that next day.
She was invited.
She was invited. In our defense, she was invited.
And she said, no, you guys go.
No, you go right ahead. That's a good woman that lets you go coyote hunting the day after. But, man, if that doesn't kind of paint a picture of where you've come in your life in a short amount of time, that, you know, within a, 18-month window, you chose to go hunting the day after you got married, that's a
I even put in a little stand the morning of the wedding. You remember
that's
that?
Right. Yeah. That's right.
We woke up and heard those coyotes out there.
Went out back,
We head on out there.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, anyway, to circle back to, you know, the whole hunting thing, you know, I hope that, and who knows, like, maybe people will think about that the next time. Because I've run, like I said, you know, you run into those folks that they just, you know, I don't know if they're just looking for something to argue about or looking for something to have conflict about. But a lot of times I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. I'll give you a perfect example is when people talk about road hunters, right? Typically in the hunting world, road hunters are looked down on, right? And I'm not a road hunter. Like you said, I like to get, you know, I don't even want to be able to see a dirt road when I'm hunting. Like, I want to be where I feel like I'm the only person on earth when I'm hunting, because I feel like that gives me the best chance of being successful. And I know that road hunters are looked down on, but I will tell you, and I'm going to be 100% honest. When I was younger, I used to throw stones, right? I'd be like, yeah, road hunters, they're not real hunters, you know? Jumping out of the back of a pickup truck to try to kill some, you know, shoot something is, you know, not a real hunter. But I will tell you, like, I've had conversations later in life, you know, here recently, where I've changed my perspective, where I'm like, but they're hunting.
They're hunting.
Yeah, they're road hunting. And maybe they're road hunting because they just haven't learned how to become a good hunter yet. And that's just my opinion on a good hunter.
Maybe they're road hunting because they're not capable of getting out.
Right.
And, you know, and
exactly.
they have to, and they've been hunting their whole life, and this is the way they have to do it now.
Exactly.
I get it. There's guys who, and just like cameras, this is the way they do things. And you know, when we were on our hunt, and we'd go way out, and then we'd hike way out, and when we get back to the Jeep, exhausted, we still road hunted.
Yeah,
I mean, we still looked.
Oh yeah,
on all the driving all the way back, Now,
yeah.
we didn't drive around with the rifle hanging out the truck.
No, but constantly hunting, constantly looking.
But yeah, it's constantly hunting.
And had a deer ran across the road, we wouldn't have hesitated to jump out,
There it
get
is.
off the road,
Yeah.
and take that shot. No, you're absolutely right.
But to go
I
out
think-
and make that effort of just staying in the Jeep, that wasn't us.
No, and I think that there's just certain hunters that are okay with that, and there's certain hunters that aren't. But I will tell you that a lot of times when I see a road hunter, when I see someone driving around, you know what my first thought is? They're going to chase those animals to me. Because they're going to chase all those animals out of this area, and their chances of being successful are really low.
And they're just pushing them
And
back.
I'm going to be out in the middle of nowhere, and they're going to push them to me. And I appreciate them, you know? Like and you just talk about changing your perspective.
Exactly.
Much like the game cam, right? The guy that posted that picture on Facebook, his perspective was, this guy's cheating. I woke up early this morning, and I came out here to check this water hole and sit in my blind all day, and he just threw a camera out here, and he's going to steal my deer. That was his perspective, right? But the guy that hung the camera, like you said, he might be like, listen, like, I don't get the chance to go out and sit. I can't go out and sit the stand all day. So I'm going to put a camera out, and I'm going to try to see what the traffic's like so I know if that's an area I'm interested in hunting or not.
And then maybe he comes out and he puts in the footwork.
Exactly.
He just wants to know if that's an area if this buck shows up 2 to 3 times a week.
Exactly.
Okay, he's in this area. Now I just got to find him.
Now I just got to find him, yeah. And maybe he comes to this watering hole again, or maybe he doesn't. But maybe that guy that hung that game cam is the guy that helps you pack your deer or your elk out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's no reason for us to be separating ourselves of, oh, you're a game cam hunter, I'm not a game cam hunter. I'm a road hunter, I'm not a road hunter. Right. You know, I'm a compound bow shooter, I'm a instinctive recurve shooter.
Right.
Like there's no reason for us to separate ourselves like that. Just like there's no reason to separate ourselves and because it does happen, like, you know, oh, you're a hunter, well, then you're a big game hunter. Well, no, I'm a predator hunter, you know. Oh, well, that's not quite the same thing. No, maybe not, you know. Like there's no reason for us to create these silos and put ourselves in them, because at the end of the day, we're all chasing the same thing, and it's one, belonging to that circle of life. Two is the passion that we have for going out and tracking down an animal and harvesting it or not. But having that experience, we're all chasing the same thing, and we should at least be able to agree on that. You know?
Absolutely should. And when you put it like that, I think a lot of people will see that and say, yeah, that's a really good point. You know, what's the point of divide?
Yeah.
If I'm fishing with lures and you're fishing with worms,
right,
we're still fishing, man.
Right.
Okay, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I just do it my way, you do it your way.
Absolutely. And you know, and to your point, if you start catching on lures and I'm using worms, I'll switch to lures.
I'm going to try that out.
Yeah,
right?
You know, like
the ultimate goal is to harvest an animal.
Yeah, like you know,
Fill that tag.
The way I hunt, I feel like is gives me the best chance of being successful. But if somebody showed me a new way tomorrow, I'd adopt that way if it felt right. You know, especially if it worked. You know, I'd adopt that way in a heartbeat. Yeah. You know, I don't care what it was. But
hey, you know, when we coyote hunt, everybody calls different. Right?
Absolutely.
We all have a different pattern. You know, we could. I've got a certain way. You have a certain way. Chester has a way. Brad has a way. Brad likes mouth calls, right?
Yep.
I mean, everybody has a different way of calling. And
you know, it's funny you brought that up, because Chester taught me something probably about a year, maybe not a year ago, but yeah, probably close to a year ago. So normally when I go out coyote hunting, I end up calling. I'm usually calling, right? And I always love the opportunity to listen to somebody else call. I really look forward to it. And me and Chester and a couple other guys, Dustin, we were out hunting, and I'd called like the first 3 stands, and I wanted to switch it up. I wasn't being successful. I wasn't calling coyotes in. We were having a hard time. And a lot of times when I do that, I'll just look at whoever I'm hunting with, and I'll be like, hey, you call this next stand. Let's switch it up.
Well, we've done that before.
Yeah, we do it all. Yeah, we do it regularly. And Chester happened to be the closest guy to me, and I'm like, hey, why don't you call this next stand? He's like, all right. So he grabs his call, and he calls. And he led off with Pup in Distress. That was the first call he led off with. I had never done that before. I had never started a stand with Pup in Distress. I always looked at Pup in Distress as either part of my set or the end of my set, right? Like I had never started a call off with pup in distress. And so when he got done calling, I had a conversation with him about it, and I was like, man, you started off with pup in distress. Like, why? You know, like, why pup in distress? And he's like, well, he goes, you know, this time of year, pups are getting kicked out of the den. There's a lot of pups out there in distress. And he said, if I'm just throwing out a pup in distress call, I have a good chance of calling in either one of those first year pups, you know, or a female coyote. And it was like a brick fell out of the sky and hit me. And I'm like, why have I not been doing this?
And it makes sense.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
And so guess what? Now, May, June time, guess what I do? I'll crank pup in distress, the very first set that I hit.
Yeah.
But I never would have done that if I would have been like, no, only my way of calling works. My way of calling works. Everyone else is wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's, you know, the time I hunted with Chester, I remember Jackrabbit, you know, he uses the Fox Pro.
Yep.
And I don't remember what the name of the call was, but I do remember talking to him about it. And it's not any way the way that I call, but we had success.
Right.
And, you know, that's what really made me realize, okay, it's not a set pattern.
No.
It's not like this is the series of doing it. Because if that was a series, Fox Pro would program their units like that. Lucky Duck would program their units
Everybody
like
would be
that
doing
and
the
say,
same thing.
just press the button because this is what gets them to come in.
And honestly,
you never know.
The longer I do this, Aaron, the more that I start to think that it's the irregular stuff that piques the coyote's curiosity. We all know that you go back 10 years from now, everybody was playing Lightning Jack. That was the go-to call on the Fox Pro, right? Everybody go out there, they play Lightning Jack and call coyotes in, you know? And now now people are kind of like, oh, I don't ever really use Lightning Jack because it's overused. Now, I don't know that that's true, but I do know that I have found more success with changing my calls up than just sticking to the same patterns all the time. And coyotes are curious animals. So if you're out there doing the same thing all the time, they're just going to get used to it.
Redundant.
Right? Yeah.
Right?
And that's the beauty of being able to hunt with other hunters, right? Is getting to hear those other calls. I mean, even when they're bad sometimes, even when you're like, oh, that doesn't seem right. Like I don't know about you, but like I've hit the wrong call, you know, where I'm like, oh crap. And then I was like, well, let it play, see what happens, because it might pique that coyote's curiosity to be like, what the hell just happened, you know?
You know, talking about that makes me remember a time I sat on a stand. I remember walking into this stand. I probably walked about a quarter of a mile in, and it was down a dirt road. And there's a farm field on one side, and there was just an open desert on the other. And I thought, well, you know, maybe I could call them out of that desert area, you know, because there's a farm field. You know, that's opportunity for food for them.
Sure.
So I sat down, walked out. Well, first I walked out and put the collar down, and walked back, sat down. And I'm facing north, and I had pulled out my binos before I ever started calling. And I just start to glass. And right down the dirt road, right at the end of the road, there's a coyote standing there. And that's why I got the binos out, because I thought, is that a dog? Or is that a domestic farm dog? Yeah. No, it's coyote standing right there. Didn't notice me, but he's right there. So I thought, turn on the collar. I put out just another dog bark, you know, like
challenge
call. That coyote didn't care. That coyote didn't do nothing. As a matter of fact, the coyote turned around and just kept walking the other direction.
Right.
So then I put in, you know, pup distress. Nothing. There was nothing I could change. I tried 3 different calls pretty quickly. You know, I let him run for about 15 to 20 seconds. Just didn't care. There was nothing that was going to get that dog to come back to me or even look my direction.
But it makes you wonder, right? Like, what if you'd have put on raccoon distress? You know?
Yeah.
Like,
it's
what
almost
if
like a crapshoot, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay,
what if you
what
had
is
put
it
on
that's gonna get
feral
this dog?
cat scream or, you know, like whatever, you know, kangaroo rat, you know, like what if you put on some of those calls that people don't use all the time? Would that have been the thing that made him go, what the hell is going on over there?
Right.
You know, because I do feel like you got to capture their curiosity.
So I guess the point is, you can call your normal routine or you can call by accident. Ultimately, that dog's going to respond to what it wants to respond to. What piques its curiosity.
Yeah.
It's not like a programmed thing that says, you know, there's a high success rate with pup in distress. There's like,
Absolutely.
I think we can all agree that, hey, that's kind of like if you're not getting any action, if this one doesn't get it, you're probably not going to get any.
Try it.
Time to try another stand. I hit it right after the challenge call. Challenge call didn't care. Pup distress
Didn't care.
Didn't care. And I was like, wow.
Some of the best calling advice I've ever gotten is from a guy, Chuck Morger. He has Morger Predator calls out of Utah. He really helped me out with like my hand calls, because I always kind of leaned on the e-callers to where I never really became a really good hand caller. I mean, I can call coyotes with hand calls all day long, but I just never became a really good one. And I remember one time I was calling, I was calling and I don't know, Reed froze up or got spit in it, or I don't know what happened, but I screwed it up and I was beating myself up about it. He goes, that might have been the call that got him to come in. He goes, that worst whistle that came out of that call might have been the thing. Yeah. Might have been the thing. And he also told me, I was talking to him one time about, setting up your sets, like what you're going to play. And he goes, James, he goes, I play what I think works. He goes, but I know a guy that's got a Fox Pro and he goes out and he plays the same rabbit in distress call. That's the only thing he plays, and he plays it completely straight through, no breaks, no volume changes. He puts his call out, hits play, and sits back for 10 to 20 minutes, and he goes, he kills coyotes all the time.
Really?
Yeah. And he goes, there's no golden answer. Yeah. There's no answer to what calls should I be using. Just get out there and call.
Yeah.
Get out there and call and see what works for you. Yeah. Like I play it like a movie in my head. Like when I sit down and it's first thing in the morning, I'm probably going to start off with some kind of like a howl, and then I'm going to move into a challenge bark. And then if I'm not getting anything on the challenge bark, or if I'm not hearing any vocals coming back at me, then I might move into like a coyote fight or a pup distress call, and then I might be like, all right, it's time to change it up. I'm 10 minutes in. It's time to change it up. I might take like a 3-minute break and then roll into some, jackrabbit in distress calls or some, different distress calls or whatever. But in my mind, what I'm doing is I'm choosing my calls and I'm trying to create a
scenario,
like
a story, right?
Yeah. I'm like, all right, male junior coyote comes in and howls.
Right.
Bigger dog comes in and challenge barks. Right. I'll even throw in like a female whimper and be like, she got her ass kicked. Now she's sitting there crying for a couple of minutes, and now her pups are screaming. Like that's how I do it. But that's what works for me.
Right. Well,
there's a guy in Utah somewhere that puts on the same call the entire time and still kills coyotes.
Still killing coyotes.
Yeah.
So there's no magic formula.
No.
Like today, we weren't having any luck calling anything in. I shot that dog, as we were heading back to
we got lucky.
And then I remember you pulling out the old feral cat, and I looked over at you and you just said, let's give it a try.
We ain't got nothing to lose.
Yeah, because nothing else was calling them in. And, who knows? Who knows what it's going to pull in?
Yeah, I'd ran through everything in my sequence that I could imagine, and I was like flipping through, and I'm like, feral cat in distress. Let's try that.
That's a new one.
And who knows? Who knows? And then you know what? If it had worked, I probably would have worked it into my sequences.
Yeah. We're gonna use it more.
Yeah,
right?
I'd have started using it more. But
yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, man, it was freaking awesome that you came and did the podcast. I got to tell you, starting a podcast. You think like the things that you think about when you start a podcast is like, well, I got to get all this equipment. I've got to, learn how to use a camera, all this different stuff. And I got to think about things to talk about. I will tell you, what my biggest struggle of starting this podcast is? Getting people to come talk to me.
Getting people here.
Yeah, it's the hardest part. And I don't know what it is. Because I got a lot of hunting buddies and stuff like that in the past was like, heck yeah, I'm going to come be on your podcast. But nothing. But nothing, right? And I don't know if they're just like, if they're intimidated, if they're like, man, I don't know if it's a little, it's a little intimidating to get on a podcast and know that, hey, man, the whole world, this is going to be on the internet and the whole world gets to hear what I say.
You do this kind of thing and some of this out there. You're
I
probably
think
going to
that's-
get a lot more biters.
It lubes everything up, right? Yeah, it greases the wheels. I think if you have enough to drink, it greases the wheels up. And
Come on over, have a beer. Let's
'Cause
chat about hunting.
I will tell you, out of all the podcasts that we've done, like I felt like after a few minutes, you kind of forget about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And now you're just talking about hunting.
Now
you
you're
know,
just having a conversation.
And so anyway, I appreciate you putting yourself out there and coming on the podcast. And I'll get this thing edited and get it up as soon as possible. And hopefully hopefully I make us look good.
Oh man, that's going to take some serious editing.
Maybe if I do a good enough job, I can get some of these other guys to come in and talk to me.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I got some really
the rest of our
cool.
guys.
I got some really cool people that have reached out to me with nonprofits and stuff like that do things for veterans
That's
and coyote
cool.
hunting and stuff like that. So I'm anxious to hear their story.
That's cool.
But anyway,
Right on.
I can't
All
thank
right.
you enough, man.
Hey, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.